Nicaragua, the Ugene Cartel, and Cuba. That's the war on drugs.
Mm-hmm. And for those of you who are just now joining us on our Newsmaker line tonight is Ugene Culson, and he's an MKULTRA victim. Ugene, we have this question here. Do you know if the government of the United States created AIDS?
Yes, they absolutely did in '76, and Ebola virus at the same time. They give all special ops guys the antidote, because I was on at least one mission that I remember in Iraq in 2000 where I designed this LSDD mortar round, and it's linked shot drug darkness, where you have three mortars, like the 90 millimeter plus, I don't remember exactly, where you got pouches that are fine and they're linked by cables, and they go over a site, and they disperse freon gas laced with LSD, and that's hence the LSDD round, and everybody's tripping out, and the people we didn't have to neutralize, or the med techs would run around and inoculate them with live AIDS and live military-grade smallpox. That's where Saddam got U.S. military-grade smallpox. He just cultured it from them.
Right, and what was the purpose of creating AIDS?
Well, Africa is the most mineral-rich area in the world, but you have a problem. You have all these Africans running around, and in '78 they did an inoculation program to gays in, I believe it was San Francisco, Los Angeles, Chicago, New York, and St. Louis. And to the days I saw the video where a guy found out about it in '84, they had the greatest AIDS thing, and the same inoculation program was done throughout Africa.
Okay. All right. We have this question from the live chat. What do you know about Planet X?
Well, somebody, Lieutenant Colonel S.C., who's very connected, said it blew up.
Really?
Yeah. We're talking about the planet way, way out there.
Yeah.
Yeah. I believe it's the same thing.
Okay.
I might not be correct on that it blew up, and we got a year and a half, and we got a bunch of meteoroids coming our way. According to him. I don't know. I only can tell you what I was told.
Well, no, it's the first time I ever heard it got blown up. I wonder if it blew up by itself. Here's a question for you. Have you ever heard of somebody named Rush Dizdar?
No, sir, I have not.
Yeah, he talks about the Black Awakening, I think, which is probably similar to the Dark Awakening. What about Chuck Missler? Are you familiar with him?
No.
Okay. All right.
Most of the people putting out the Alien MKUltra Operation Monarch routine are their people.
Okay. All right. Now
They're disinformation operatives.
Okay. All right, we have this question from the Fast Blast. How do you know that the memories that you do have weren't implanted?
Because I investigate Ted Gunderson, former LAFBI Bureau Director. When I was doing my research, I had contacted him on the Lou Epton show. First I called the Lou Epton show out of Las Vegas, and Lou Epton's a good guy. They had a Doc Marquis on there. Yep. And I called in and I says, what's Marquis? And Doc Marquis is a former Illuminati, third-level witch, retired military, claiming he's a born-again minister trying to expose this stuff. And I called in and I said, what's the Machti Lodi Nomad and where is the Enigma? This is satanic terminology. He says, well, that sounds translated. And I told him how I found it with the reverse speech thing and everything. And then I saw they were getting ready to dump me. And I said, what is a Machti Lodi Nomad and where's the Enigma? And he got all panicky and he goes, I don't remember. He's done this all his life and he doesn't remember. 2 days later, Art Bell filed suit on David John Oates for saying that he was, David John Oates said he was a pedophile and doing things like that. 3 weeks later, Ted Gunderson was on the show, and I called Lou Epton show, and I called in, and I told him what I found and how I found it, and I said, Ted, tell me I'm crazy. This is all wrong. And he said, no, everything you're telling me is consistent with my last 20 years of investigation. And then I called his call-in line. 3 weeks later, he calls me, and he wanted to know everything that I knew, and I told him. And when I would find stuff out, I'd bounce it off him and other people like him. And he told me I'm one of the finest investigators he ever met. The reason I was so good at it was because it was locked in my brain and I didn't know it. And then when I started having my repressed memories come out, I investigated myself. Then I would find military people, former intelligence people, retired CIA, current CIA, and when I would talk to them, I knew so much, they thought I was one of them, and they would tell me a lot of things they weren't supposed to.
Okay.
So I verified all of my repressed memories.
Okay.
And I do have contacts, too.
All right. So do you have contact with Ted Gunderson?
No. When I became a basket case, they were doing that voice-to-skull thing. We should spend a little time on that. See, they have the technology now to where they can figure out what brain frequency you think on. And they can interject thoughts or whatever they want to put in there.
Yeah.
There's numerous people around the country that's claiming this electronic harassment. And in my case, in 2001, I let someone that was connected with my past through Buzz, a female, who they called Ciolette, and her operational name was Ciolette Wendy Solomon. Later, we did a lot of stuff together. Her and her husband come in, and I believe her husband was her handler. And they were trying to convince me that God talked to them in their thoughts. And then they were doing this voice-to-skull thing to me, and for 2 months I actually believed it. And then I started ignoring it, and this was their attempts to try to make me go over the edge. And they can do this to a lot of people, but for some reason my thought process changed, and they can no longer do that.
Yeah.
And I would put thoughts into my head. You know, I get this voice. I said, who's this? Well, this is God. This is Jesus. And I actually believed it for 2 months.
So you haven't gone over the edge until, or are you saying the last time you went over the edge was when you were in Area 51, ripping the heads off of the scientists? Have you gone over the edge any time since then? Have you visited any other underground bases since then?
No. Unless they took me there and I don't remember, because keep in mind, they can still get inside my head. And I can't stop it. Even though I pray to God to stop it, it's not.
Well, that sounds like a case of maybe you need some sort of deliverance, wouldn't you think, maybe?
Every time I run across anybody that I see with spiritual gifts, a minister, I ask them, I said, that I met one the other day, yesterday, and I said, please, if you know anybody that's in tune with God, have them pray for me in this situation. I want out. So, you know, I've seeked help from, you know, some mystics, whatever. Yeah. I want out.
So what happens is a lot of times, say, when you visit ministers, they tell you to take some drugs and get out of there, right?
No. You see, early on, people called me a liar and a fraud, and that doesn't happen very often anymore.
Yeah.
And in fact, if anybody's out there in this audience and they're connected with the government and they want to find some nice underground champion to set up another one, that's fine with me, because I know God protects me and I will win.
Well, all right. Good for you. All right, Ugene, you obviously been through a lot of things. So would you consider yourself then, you have officially escaped the MKULTRA program? Are you out of it now?
No, they can still. No, I'm not out of it yet. They can still get inside my head. But when they get inside of my head, I know who I am, and I've only given 2 people permission. And the only reason I allow that is if I have to do a mission, like in the first Gulf War, we had a 3-second window with World War III with Russia at the Scud Command Center mission. Okay. I'd already sliced and diced a sergeant, Republican Guard sergeant, 2 Green Beret Control Center lieutenants, a captain, and there are only the colonel and the major left, because if one bioscud was on its way to Israel, Israel was at DEFCON 2, we were at DEFCON 2, the rest of the Air Force World was at DEFCON 3, all hardened silos and subs were at DEFCON 2. Bush had the football locked and loaded, and his finger was on the button. Really? And I was operating under direct orders of the president. You get the coordinates of the Scuds any way possible, as fast as possible. The entire Air Force coalition was launched looking for Scuds and awaiting coordinates. Even all the helo, nothing was on the ground, because World War III was about to break out. And Schwarzkopf was screaming at the top of his lungs, do not work on the major, because if the colonel doesn't talk, we need the major to get us the keys, get in the computer, get the coordinates. And all the good pieces of the good major that I threw in the lap of the good colonel, and right before the colonel's major circumcision, he decided to talk. We got the coordinates of the Scuds. And when I got the coordinates of Scuds, there were 30 Scuds operational, 5 aimed at Saudi, 25 aimed at Israel. Israel was at DEFCON 2 targeting Russia, China, and their enemies, and they would have retaliated on us.